It is often said to be a reflection of the artist's soul, a window into their innermost thoughts and emotions. Through the ages, art has taken many forms, from the serene beauty of a landscape painting to the chaotic energy of abstract expressionism. But what happens when the canvas is not made of fabric or paper, but of flesh and bone? When the tools are not brushes and chisels, but knives and scalpels? A window to the soul. Eyes, they say, are the windows to the soul. They reveal our deepest fears, our greatest joys, and our darkest secrets. In the hands of a master artist, they can convey a world of emotion with just a glance. But in the hands of Robert Irwin, they became something far more sinister, a reflection of the world. Mirrors and reflections have always held a certain fascination for artists. They capture the world as it is, but also as it could be. They show us our true selves, but also the selves we hide from the world. For Irwin, reflections became a way to distort reality, to twist it into something grotesque and horrifying. For Robert Irwin, it became something far more sinister. His canvas, human flesh. Irwin's descent into madness began with a fascination for the human form. He saw beauty in the curves of muscle, the lines of bone, the texture of skin. But as his obsession grew, so did his need to control and manipulate that beauty. He began to see his subjects not as people, but as raw materials for his art. His tools, the instruments of a butcher, knives, scalpels, saws, these were the tools of his trade. He used them with the precision of a surgeon, but with the intent of a madman. Each cut, each incision was a stroke of his twisted genius, transforming living flesh into a macabre masterpiece. Irwin, once a promising sculptor, descended into madness, transforming his art into a macabre spectacle of horror. His early works showed promise, a talent for capturing the human form in all its beauty and complexity. But as his mind unravelled, so did his art. What was once a celebration of life became a grotesque parody of it, a nightmarish vision of death and decay. His subjects, lured into his web of terror, became unwilling participants in his gruesome creations. They came to him seeking beauty, transformation, a glimpse of the divine. But what they found was a monster, a man driven by a dark and insatiable hunger. They became his canvases, their bodies twisted and contorted into shapes that defied nature and reason. The line between art and atrocity blurred, twisted into a grotesque mockery of beauty. Irwin's works were displayed in secret, hidden from the eyes of the world. Those who saw them were left haunted, their minds scarred by the horrors they had witnessed. What was once art had become an abomination, a testament to the depths of human depravity. Irwin, the artist, became Irwin, the monster. His name became synonymous with terror, his legacy one of pain and suffering. In the end, he was consumed by the very darkness he sought to capture, a tragic figure lost to his own madness. And so, the story of Robert Irwin serves as a chilling reminder of the thin line between genius and insanity, and the horrors that can arise when that line is crossed. The sculptures were horrifying masterpieces, each one a chilling testament to the artist's twisted vision. Irwin's creations were not just art, they were a macabre display of human suffering and torment. The room was filled with an eerie silence, broken only by the whispers of the past echoing through the hollow eyes of the sculptures. Poses of agony, frozen in time, captured the essence of despair. Each face, contorted in pain, told a story of unimaginable suffering. The expressions were so lifelike it was as if the sculptures were once living beings, now trapped in a perpetual state of torment. Bodies contorted, limbs arranged in a grotesque ballet of death. The twisted forms seemed to dance in the dim light, casting long haunting shadows on the walls. It was a dance of the damned, a morbid choreography that spoke of pain and despair. Irwin used a mixture of clay and flesh, moulding his victims into his nightmarish visions. His hands moved with a disturbing grace, shaping the clay with an almost loving touch. The process was as horrifying as the final product, a blend of artistry and atrocity. Each sculpture told a story, a silent scream etched into every curve and crevice. The cracks and crevices added to the realism, making the sculptures appear as if they could come to life at any moment. The emotional intensity was palpable, a testament to Irwin's dark genius. The eyes, wide with terror, stared into eternity. They seemed to follow you no matter where you stood in the room. It was as if the souls of the victims were trapped within, forever reliving their final moments of horror, a testament to the madness that consumed Irwin and the suffering he inflicted upon his victims. The room was a gallery of nightmares, each sculpture a grim reminder of the artist's descent into insanity. The dim lighting added to the atmosphere, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move and breathe. It was a place where the line between art and horror was blurred, a chilling tribute to the darkness within the human soul. Irwin's descent into madness wasn't sudden. Darkness had always lurked beneath the surface. His criminal history, a tapestry of petty theft and violent outbursts, hinted at the monster he would become. A string of assault charges, each more brutal than the last. Whispers of animal cruelty. His art, once filled with promise, grew darker, reflecting the turmoil within. The man was a ticking time bomb, his sanity slowly unraveling. The studio, nestled in a quiet, unsuspecting neighborhood, became a sanctuary for Irwin's madness. Behind the boarded-up windows, a gruesome tableau unfolded. The smell of decay hung heavy in the air, a sickening perfume of death. Tools of the trade lay scattered amongst buckets of blood and bone. Sketches of twisted figures adorned the walls, a chilling roadmap of Irwin's descent into depravity. This was no artist's haven, it was a butcher's workshop. Section 5. The Disappearances. As Irwin's sculptures grew bolder, so did his crimes. People began to disappear from the neighborhood, vanishing without a trace. Runaways, drifters, souls lost in the city's underbelly, easy prey for a predator like Irwin. Their families, desperate for answers, plastered missing posters on every street corner. Little did they know their loved ones were gone, forever immortalized in Irwin's macabre gallery of horrors. The charade couldn't last forever. A routine investigation into a missing persons case led police to Irwin's doorstep. The smell alone was enough to turn their stomachs. Inside, a scene straight out of a nightmare awaited them. The sculptures, illuminated by the flashing lights of police cars, seemed to mock them with their silent screams. Irwin, covered in clay and blood, offered no resistance as they slapped on the handcuffs. Irwin's confession sent chills down the spines of even the most hardened detectives. He spoke of his art, his vision, with a chilling detachment. The murders, the dismemberment, it was all part of his grand design. He showed no remorse, no regret, only a twisted sense of pride in his creations. The man was pure evil, his soul consumed by the darkness he brought to life through his art. The trial was a media frenzy. Reporters from every major news outlet had gathered outside the courthouse, their cameras flashing incessantly as they tried to capture every moment. Inside, the atmosphere was equally charged. Journalists scribbled furiously in their notebooks, trying to keep up with the rapid developments. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled with people eager to witness the unfolding drama. The tension was palpable, a mix of anticipation and dread hanging in the air. The world watched in horror as the details of Irwin's crimes were laid bare. Each revelation was more shocking than the last, painting a gruesome picture of a man driven by dark, twisted desires. The audience in the courtroom was visibly shaken, gasps and murmurs rippling through the crowd with each new piece of evidence. Close-ups of horrified spectators captured the collective shock and disbelief that gripped everyone present. It was a spectacle of terror that no one could look away from. The jury, visibly shaken, delivered a swift verdict: guilty. The foreman, his voice trembling, read out the decision that everyone had been waiting for. The jurors, who had spent days sifting through the harrowing evidence, looked relieved yet haunted by the weight of their decision. The courtroom erupted in a mix of emotions, from cries of relief to sobs of despair. Justice had been served, but the scars left by Irwin's actions would take much longer to heal. Irwin, the mad sculptor, was sentenced to life in prison, his reign of terror finally over. As he was led away in handcuffs, The judge delivered the sentence with a stern expression, emphasizing the gravity of his crimes. The courtroom's reaction was a mix of relief and lingering fear. For many, the sight of Irwin being taken away marked the end of a nightmare, but the emotional wounds he had inflicted would not heal easily. But the fear he instilled lingered. Even with Irwin behind bars, the shadow of his actions loomed large over the city. People walked the streets with a newfound caution, their eyes darting nervously at every shadow. The once bustling nightlife had quieted, replaced by an eerie silence that spoke volumes of the collective trauma the city had endured. The mad sculptor's legacy was a haunting presence that refused to fade. The city, once a place of hope and dreams, now held a dark secret, forever stained by the legacy of the mad sculptor. The skyline, once a symbol of progress and ambition, now seemed to cast long, ominous shadows. Abandoned streets and a pervasive sense of foreboding became the new normal. The story of Irwin and his heinous acts had become an indelible part of the city's history, a grim reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind even the most unassuming facades. Robert Irwin's name became synonymous with horror. His sculptures, those gruesome testaments to his madness, were destroyed, deemed too disturbing for public display. But some say the studio still stands, a silent monument to the darkness that can lurk within the human heart. And in the shadows, whispers remain. Whispers of the mad sculptor and his gruesome art. A chilling reminder that sometimes the line between beauty and horror can be terrifyingly thin.